When Claire Wilson commences her teaching career at Westerbrook High School, she encounters one of her students, Eric. He approaches her with a request for tutoring, as he aspires to achieve the necessary score on his SATs and attend the University of Texas, just like Claire did. Although she agrees to help him, Claire decides to keep these tutoring sessions a secret from her husband, Matt. Similarly, Eric chooses not to disclose this arrangement to his best friends, Josh and Logan. After a few weeks, Claire takes Eric on a tour of the University of Texas. During their visit, they unexpectedly encounter Cody, Logan's older brother. Eric introduces Claire as his friend. The day following the tour, Eric impulsively kisses Claire after class, leading her to terminate their tutoring sessions and instruct him to stay away. However, the next day, he pleads with her to reconsider and assures her that he will never engage in any inappropriate behavior again. Before their next scheduled session, Claire waits for Eric, but he fails to show up. During a school dance, Claire experiences feelings of jealousy when she witnesses Eric dancing with his ex-girlfriend, Allison. She confronts him about his absence from tutoring, prompting him to finally admit that he stayed away because he couldn't stop thinking about her. Eventually, Claire signals for Eric to join her in her car, and they drive off to an empty parking lot, where they ultimately engage in a physical relationship. After their clandestine encounter, Eric returns home to his mother, Sandy, who inquires about the dance. He responds by saying that he had a great time. Meanwhile, outside her house, Claire sits in her car, feeling exhilarated and in disbelief about what just transpired. She then enters the house and finds Matt practicing with his bandmates. He invites her to join them, but she declines, stating that she is tired and would rather go to bed. In his room, the teenager sits on his bed and basks in the knowledge that he recently slept with his attractive teacher. The following day, Eric meets up with Logan and Josh, and when they inquire about his whereabouts the previous night, he claims he wasn't feeling well and went home. However, when Logan steps away, Josh informs the teenager that they have known each other since childhood and can tell when he is lying. Once again, he questions Eric about what he was truly doing after the dance. To satisfy his friend's curiosity, Eric states that he was with a girl he met at work and mentions that things are complicated at the moment. Shortly after, while reminiscing fondly about the previous night's events, he messages Claire that he can't stop thinking about her. Claire reads the message but promptly deletes it from her phone. On Monday, Allison confronts Eric about why he left the dance without informing her. He apologizes, claiming he was unwell, but Allison remains unconvinced and walks away. In class, the teenager finds himself unable to resist staring at Claire as she distributes their graded papers. When she hands Eric his paper, she compliments his work, prompting him to smile. Later, the teacher requests to speak with the teenager privately. She instructs him to meet her at their usual spot after soccer practice, much to his delight. While waiting in the deserted parking lot, Eric notices Claire's new online post and likes it. Claire receives the notification, sees that the teenager liked her post, and mutters a curse under her breath. Upon entering her car, she scolds him for liking her post, reminding him that her husband could see it. She insists on establishing ground rules for their relationship, including not disclosing their affair to anyone, only meeting on Mondays, avoiding secret encounters on school premises, refraining from taking photos, and changing her name on his phone. Eric demonstrates that he has already changed her name on his phone and promptly unlikes her post, as she requested. After reaching an agreement on the terms, she notes that it is Monday and proceeds to undress for intimacy. Later that day, Claire returns home to find Matt has prepared dinner. Concerned about her troubled expression, he asks if she is okay. She reassures him that she is fine but had a rough day at work. Matt pulls her in for a hug and she begins undressing him to please him. Days pass, and while Eric hangs out with friends at school, he locks eyes with Claire on the second floor. Claire invites the French teacher, Catherine, for drinks on Saturday, and she agrees. On Saturday, Eric stays home to look after his brothers while their mother goes on a date. Meanwhile, Claire and Catherine enjoy drinks at a bar. Claire goes to the restroom and impulsively takes a suggestive selfie, which she sends to the student. He responds enthusiastically, but when she suggests meeting immediately, he declines, disappointing her. After a moment of silence, he changes his mind and agrees to meet at their usual spot in 30 minutes. Before leaving, he asks Leanne to watch his brothers. He arrives at the parking lot to find Claire waiting in her car. She is eager to engage in intimacy, but Eric stops her. He explains that her message was confusing, as she was the one who established the rule of meeting only on Mondays. She dismisses his concerns and kisses him, but he stops her again to express that he wants more than just a physical relationship. Eric admits he really likes her because she is intelligent, beautiful, and unlike anyone he has been with before. Flattered, she reciprocates the feelings, bringing a smile to Eric's face, and they proceed to make love. Later, upon entering the house, the student is confronted by his furious mother. She inquires about his whereabouts and why he left his siblings in someone else's care. Deceptively, he claims to have gone to Logan's to return a textbook, but his mother sees through his lies, as she had called his friend. She informs him that his brother got injured while he was away, causing the teenager to feel immense guilt for his negligence. Weeks later, Claire and Eric find themselves in a rental house located on a vast ranch. Eric playfully records a video of Claire as she gives him a tour of the house. While admiring the beautiful view outside, she wishes him a happy birthday and reminds him to delete the video, which he promptly does. During dinner, the teacher opens up about the loss of her mother to cancer when she was just 9 years old. She becomes emotional and apologizes, but Eric reassures her that it's all right and expresses his interest in hearing more about her life. The following day, after waking up together in bed, Claire's phone rings with a call from her husband. She steps away to answer it, leaving Eric observing her from the kitchen as she talks to Matt outside. To conclude the call, she mentions that she needs to attend a seminar soon. Upon returning to the house, she notices Eric's cold demeanor, prompting her to apologize and explain that she had no choice but to answer the call. As he starts to walk away, she stops him, and seconds later the teenager demands that she remove her undergarments. Surprised by his statement, she hesitates, but he repeats it firmly. She complies with his orders, and they engage in a sexual encounter on the table. Later that afternoon, the couple spends time together in the backyard, with the student teaching Claire how to use illicit substances. That night, Claire confesses that she had never been intimate with a man until she married Matt. She explains that it was a personal choice, which is why she refrained from drinking or dating during college. Curious about Eric's past, she asks him how long he and Allison were together, to which he responds with a duration of 6 months. The woman mentions that he will encounter numerous women in college and that he has his whole life ahead of him. Hurt by her words, he steps away briefly. Shortly after, she follows him and questions why he is acting coldly towards her. Eric confesses that he did not appreciate how she casually brought up the other women he will meet in college, and how she will go back to her husband as if the trip never occurred. She explains that he will not want to be with her when he is in college because he will have moved on from her by then. Claire reminds him that she is risking her entire life just to be with him, and expresses her dislike for having to return home the next day because all she wants is to stay with him, although she knows she cannot. As she begins to cry, he embraces her, apologizes, and declares his love for her. She reciprocates the sentiment, much to the teen's joy. Subsequently, they proceed to the bedroom to engage in intimacy. The following day, the couple savors their final moments alone on the ranch before driving back to town. Upon Eric's return home, his mother greets him and expresses her hope that he had a wonderful time on the trip with his friends. Before heading to work, she wishes him a happy birthday and leaves him at the kitchen table with his cake. Meanwhile, Claire waits at the bar for Matt's band to perform. Catherine soon arrives, and the woman expresses her gratitude to her friend for accepting her invitation. When the bartender ignores them, the French teacher discreetly takes a bottle from behind the bar, and they flee to the parking lot to consume it. Catherine inquires about Claire's whereabouts during the weekend, to which she falsely claims she was in Dallas for a conference. However, Catherine suspects she is lying, noting her recent radiance and deducing that she is engaged in an affair. Claire was taken aback by the accusation and vehemently denied it, insisting that she was on a work trip with colleagues from her old school. However, after persistent prodding from her friend, she finally confessed to having an affair. Her friend seemed amused by the revelation and mentioned that she understood Claire's reasons. Initially hesitant to reveal the identity of her lover, Claire eventually disclosed that the person was younger than her, sparking even more interest from her friend. In a moment of intoxication, she admitted to her French teacher friend that she was seeing Eric, her student. At first, her friend thought it was a joke and laughed, but her expression quickly changed to shock and concern upon realizing the seriousness of the situation. She reminded Claire that having a relationship with Eric, despite his age, was an abuse of power. Claire tried to justify their love as a real relationship between consenting adults, but her friend insisted on reporting her to the school administration. As the French teacher walked away, Claire understood the gravity of her actions and the consequences that would follow now that the truth was out. The next morning, overwhelmed by guilt, She confessed to Matt about her affair with her student. Meanwhile, 2 police officers visited Eric's home to inquire about his relationship with Claire. Eric mentioned that she tutored him for school, but admitted he didn't know much about her. When questioned by the police about any inappropriate behavior with the teacher, the student denies the accusations. However, the authorities inform him that the school has been notified and that they are aware of the entire situation. They mention his recent trip with Claire and urge him to tell the truth, as lying will not benefit either the teacher or himself. Meanwhile, Matt confides in Claire's brother, Nate, a police officer, about Claire's inappropriate relationship with her student. Initially skeptical, Nate suggests that if the student claims it was consensual, they may not press charges. Later, the student contacts the teacher after being questioned by the police, seeking guidance on what to do. The teacher, overwhelmed with emotion, ends the call abruptly. In another part of town, Logan learns from his mother that Eric is involved with their teacher, leaving him confused and disbelieving. Matt returns home to find his wife distraught, expressing a desire to salvage their marriage despite the circumstances. He reassures her that they will seek legal and therapeutic help, believing they can overcome the situation. Elsewhere, Eric discusses the widespread rumors with Logan and Josh. When he expresses his worry about the teacher getting into trouble because of him, Logan argues that he was the student and she was the teacher, and the fact that she slept with him indicates that she has personal issues. When they emphasize that he shouldn't concern himself with what's about to happen to her, he states that they don't understand what he's going through and leaves the room. During dinner, Matt informs Claire that he called in to work to take a few days off. She stands up from her seat and mentions that she's going for a walk to get some fresh air. Outside, the overwhelmed woman decides to get into her car and drive away. Soon after, she picks up the student and they park in a secluded area. Eric apologizes for revealing everything to the police, but she reassures him that it's all right because they would have found out anyway. When she expresses her fear about what will happen to her life, he suggests that they should just drive off immediately and run away together. The woman considers it a crazy idea, but the teen insists that they belong together, and he can't be without her. He confesses his love for her, and they share a kiss. Eventually, they end up in a motel on the outskirts of town. Claire answers a call from Nate, who angrily informs her that he's been calling her non-stop. He pleads with his sister to come back home because the authorities might view the situation as a possible kidnapping. In the motel room, an intoxicated Claire asks Eric if she was a good teacher, and he assures her that she was. When he confesses how special he feels because a beautiful woman like her chose him, she callously states that her entire life is ruined because of him. Hurt, the teen walks away, but the woman pulls him back to bed where they make love. The following day, Eric departs from a slumbering Claire in their shared bed and exits the room to attend to his phone. Upon glancing at the screen, he notices missed calls and concerned messages from both his mother and friends, expressing worry for his well-being. Subsequently, the teacher awakens and calls out for the adolescent, only to realize that he has left her behind. Eventually, Eric returns to his residence where his mother warmly embraces him. She then endeavors to console him as he weeps while lying in bed. In due course, Claire comprehends the appropriate course of action. She drives herself to the police station, gradually making her way towards the entrance. Midway, she halts momentarily, overcome by apprehension, but ultimately proceeds to the doors and surrenders herself to the authorities.